So you're thinking then, what do they call it? Discerning
Yeah,
seminary. Did you have any idea that you might want to do that as a child or?
not really. I mean, I don't know the concept, or as a child, I guess the Baptist mindset was kind of scary because it was all like internal introspection, and that came with everything. Like assurance of salvation is one we pick on all the time. But another one was like, do you feel called to do this? Do you feel called to do that? Did God put a special feeling on your heart to do this? And it's like, I'm not much of a touchy-feely kind of person. I can't feel God speaking in my heart. Like I don't know where I want to go
That
from
might have
here,
been
but no. The
the pizza you ate for supper. Well, welcome to City Square Podcast, where we talk with everyday people about faith and work. My name is Micah. My guest this episode is Chuck Blankenship. He's a mean page admin, college student, and a confessional Lutheran. How's it going, Chuck?
Not too bad. How about yourself, sir?
Oh, not bad. And this is our first time actually meeting face to face, or face to face, as you could say it. So I'm interested to see where the conversation goes. So where are you from? Where are you living right now?
I currently live in the state of Michigan. I was born here, but I had family in the military, so I moved around a little bit during my childhood. Spent most of my time in Mississippi, but now I've been back in Michigan for 7 years almost.
Gotcha. You enjoy living there?
Yeah, the winters kind of suck, but the summers are nice, and I guess the people
When
are nice.
people are nice enough. When does that like officially start?
Michigan is so weird because right now we're kind of in the false fall phase, and then it'll get hot again. Like it is, it's getting cold tomorrow, then hot again next week. But winter kind of really starts around end of October.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a little earlier than down here in the Republic of Texas, but so you said Mississippi was the other spot where you mainly landed.
Yeah,
Any other states in between there? Or?
South Carolina and Virginia. I think Florida for a year, but I can't really remember much of those. I was kind of young.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Did you enjoy like Mississippi? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'd want to live there again just because of all like the poisonous stuff and the heat and everything. But it was nice. I still have lifelong friends I have down there. I visit at least once a year. So
that describes most of the South.
yeah.
Heat and poisonous stuff. um, that's cool. So you grew up then in the military. What's your church background like?
So that's kind of interesting. I first started in the church slash Assemblies of God. They're kind of the same thing, just a different government structure, but Pentecostalism. And then my parents became disenchanted with it when I was about, I want to say like 9 or 10. So we switched over to the SBC mainly, became Baptists, and that was the rest of my religious upbringing as a child.
Gotcha. Do you have like so I have a conversion story then, like a Baptist conversion story, basically. Do you have one too?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it's kind of lame compared to other people's. I basically became like a semi-agnostic when I was like 17 to 18 and kind of went off the rails for a minute, but then I was faced with my own mortality because I've had to have multiple throat slices done, and it's like, well, I'm going to die one day and I know I believe this stuff in my heart. So I ended up coming back to church around 19, but I decided to dig into history, or church history to be specific. And at the end of that long journey, I didn't want to become a Roman Catholic because, obvious reasons we've talked about before, but I couldn't remain just generic evangelical Protestant. So I eventually studied up and landed on Lutheranism.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's similar. I'd say similar to my story. Yeah, I was never, and I will say, no one's conversion story is lame or boring. Technically, right?
Yeah.
It's a miracle. So you were in Assemblies of God and then Baptist. Do you remember much about like the Assemblies of God churches or anything like that?
Sorta. I was actually baptized first in the Assemblies of God. Unfortunately, got rebaptized, but I remember the one church in South Carolina quite vividly. The pastor is rather uh, charismatic, no pun intended. And I remember nights where they'd have guest speakers and everyone be flopping around on the floor and crap like that. So, I mean, not like great memories.
There's this Facebook page it's called a video of the same pastor freaking out to metal music or to a different metal song, and it's one of those old school like guys having a conniption fit with a mic, and they put metal music to it. It's amazing. And when what you said your parents, that was early on. So what age were you when they switched from Assemblies of God to Baptist? Was it
Probably 9 or 10.
okay?
We really made the switch when we were in Mississippi. So, like, shortly before the move from South Carolina, and they liked the church they were at, so they stayed while they were there. And then as soon as we got to Mississippi, we made the switch.
Gotcha. So what was your you are in Lutheranism now, confessional, as a confessional Lutheran, LCMS specifically, right?
Yes.
Okay. What so what was your first exposure to that? You said you dug into history a bit. But what was your first exposure to Lutheranism specifically?
I started listening to sermons online by Lutheran pastors, and I ran into, or the most famous guy I initially ran into was Jordan Cooper. So I watched some of his stuff. And lo and behold, after doing some research and watching some of those guys, I found out that there's an LCMS church only 5 minutes away from my house. So that's where I first really got exposed to, like, I guess, the liturgical life of the church.
Gotcha. Was that when you were still, are you living at home with your parents still, or are you
I
on
live
your
with my
own,
parents right now.
grandparents? When you started exploring like Lutheranism and history and that sort of thing, did your parents know about it? Did your family know about it?
Yes, they were not happy. Well, the history thing was whatever. They weren't happy when I made the jump to a
Gotcha.
Lutheran.
Was that while you were still living at home, or?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, Interesting. So you were introduced to Christianity then through Assemblies of God, moved to Baptist, which is kind of like a sideways move in my mind,
Yeah.
depending on the stream of Baptist. Ended up in Lutheranism. Family's not happy. And what does Chuck do from there?
Uh, well, I mean, what I did from there was I just kind of was a part of the church for a while, and then eventually I start talking to my pastor about potential future career paths within the LCMS, specifically seminary, because he brought it up to me one day, told me he thought I'd be really good at it. The converts tend to be really good with stuff like that because they know why they're there.
Hmm,
And he recommended it to me. I've had another, at least one or two other pastors recommend it to me. So right now I'm just trying to get my bachelor's, so that if that's the path God puts me down, I'd be all set to go, because you need a bachelor's before you can go to seminary.
gotcha. So how long have you been a member at your current church?
About 3 years.
Did you have to go through confirmation, like catechism classes and stuff, or?
Oh man, that is, so I didn't have to go through any official classes. My pastor just handed me the small catechism. And then, like, by the time I was like, do I need to do any classes or anything? And he's like, you no, like, you've studied too much.
That's kind of what one of my pastors said to me. Like, oh no, yeah, you're fine. You're
Oh yeah.
good.
Yeah, so I just ended up receiving confirmation about a month after my initial request.
Gotcha. Okay. That's awesome. So you're thinking then, what do they call it?
Yeah.
Discerning seminary. Did you have any idea that you might want to do that as a child, or?
Not really. I mean, I don't know the concept, or as a child, I guess the Baptist mindset was kind of scary, because it was all like internal introspection, and that came with everything. Like, assurance of salvation is one we pick on all the time. But another one was like, do you feel called to do this? Do you feel called to do that? Did God put a special feeling on your heart? to do this, and it's like, I'm not much of a touchy-feely kind of person. I can't feel God speaking in my heart. Like, I don't know where I want to go
It might
from
have
here,
been
but no,
that might
the
have been the pizza you ate for supper.
for real, for real. So, yeah, no, I guess Lutherans are a bit different because I initially brought up my concerns with my pastor, and my pastor's like, dude, it's it's not about the feelings. Like, I was recommended by multiple people, and that's how I got in. So
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. It's bringing up a lot of memories. I remember some of that because there's this idea that there's sort of like one perfect will that God has for your life, and you can miss it.
yeah.
Like you can miss out on it if you're not surrendered enough or something like that. I was just chatting with a buddy of mine last night, 2 nights ago. I don't know. Time is relative now. Um, and he and I were I was kind of walking him through how that went for me in Bible college when I was there. And yeah, that's one of the aspects I kind of forgot and didn't touch on. So what made you pick Lutheran over like say Anglican or Orthodox or something like that?
So I watched a lot of Father Mike Schmitz, and I dug into Roman Catholic doctrine and history because it's whenever you think church history, you think either Orthodoxy or Catholicism, or Roman Catholicism, I should say. And
Yes.
it was Rome kind of has a good case with a lot of issues because historically there's like baptismal regeneration, the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, uh, among other things, especially the dismantling of the solo scriptura mindset. But when you
Mhm.
really dig deep into it, into like the early church history and everything, you just don't see Roman Catholicism. And you just don't see a lot of the stuff they push and propagate today. And at the end of the day, they'll always say, "Oh, you can't use scripture against us. We wrote the Bible." But like, they're obviously teaching things contrary to that. So consciously, I couldn't be a Roman Catholic. But like I said, I
Yeah.
couldn't remain where I was. So
Yeah.
Lutheranism, not that I picked it because it's a media vita or a middle way, because that's a horrible thing to do if you're just looking for something easy. But I, in a way, it really does balance tradition and scripture in
Mhm.
a way that just works. And I've always been quite attracted to that. It's like, I'm free to use early church history to propagate or to advocate for certain doctrines like baptismal regeneration while rejecting all the other nonsense that eventually developed.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a friend of mine. He he and I were talking. He was talking about how his mom, I think, is Roman Catholic and his dad is Baptist. He's like, I just need, like something right in the middle. I'm like, bro, like we've been talking for like 2 years about this.
Yeah,
It's called Lutheranism, essentially.
for
Not that
real.
I would say, yeah, that implies that Lutheranism is a cross between those two when Baptist came later. But
Right.
yeah, that was part of it for me because I grew up in a strong Baptist tradition that held scripture very, very highly. And we only did what was, what scripture permitted and scripture said to do. So, in spite of the difference of interpretation between the two groups, that is one thing that I was impressed with early on about Lutheranism is that they did take scripture so seriously and
Yeah.
didn't bother to just abdicate to tradition or something like that.
Right.
I think it helps when the two are in harmony, and I think Lutheranism and to maybe a lesser extent Anglicanism has that.
Oh
So
yeah. Because when you talk about the tradition of the earliest or the primitive church is what I would call it, scripture wasn't canonized until the 300s, or officially canonized. Like, churches had lists of books written by the apostles, but that's kind of what tradition was, the oral and the written tradition of the apostles. And
mhm.
that gets canonized into scripture, and Lutheranism perfectly harmonizes, in my opinion.
If we get any Roman Catholic viewers, I'm sure they'll start reading right now in the comments. We'll see. We'll see. Um, so you are a meme page admin.
Yes.
What is the name of that meme page?
It is obnoxiously provocative memes for obsessively Lutheran teens, or opmult, as it's probably more commonly known.
So how do you get that name? Where did that come from?
I just sat down and I'm like, well, there's all these other 14s pages, so obviously I have to have that at the end. But what can I name it that's kind of like eye catching? And obnoxious is eye catching because obviously it means
Mhm.
just to be obnoxious, and then provocative because a lot of the memes I post are targeted at certain groups. So,
Uh, we
so
have
yeah.
fun. We have fun. Fun for us anyway. That
Oh yeah.
that is the I think that's one of the highlights. And like I'm a former Calvinist, and I have a lot of really good, even best friends that are still Calvinist. So I don't necessarily send any of my anti-Calvinist memes to them, but I still post them. Um, and we even have, okay, so full disclosure, I'm an admin on the same page that Chuck is. He invited me to be a meme page admin, what, earlier mid 2020, I think.
Yeah, summer of 2020.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I'd actually never interacted with you before. So it was kind of where did you first spot me then? I've always been curious.
I
Was
spotted
it,
you in some comments, and back then I was a landscaper, so I was working like 13 hours a day, and it's like I can't run this stuff by myself. So I start combing through my comments, and it's like you popped up a few times. I'm like, well, he's obviously not a closet Presbyterian, so let's shoot him a message and see where he goes.
no, no, I never was a Presbyterian. Reformed Baptist at the most. Um, that's awesome. So, and yeah, we even have a cover photo that says Reform trigger warning. So, so when you originally started it, was it more like kind of an anti-reformed, like tongue-in-cheek page, or what was the goal?
Yeah, so like my internet scrolling back in the 2019 2020 was so weird. I was hooked into all these reform groups, and uh they were just so the ones I was in was just so they were so rabidly anti-icon that it got me turned off to reform theology entirely. And it's like, well, now I want something I can really like punch these people with and like get hundreds of laughs with. So that's where the reform trigger warning picture came from.
Gotcha. The 2CV, what they call a second commandment violation.
Yeah.
I had honestly never encountered that before.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you have no idea how bad it gets.
I don't hang out in those groups, I guess.
Yeah, I hung out in one for quite a while called Trolling for Jesus. But yeah, and any picture of the Godhead at all whatsoever just sent the whole group into a tailspin.
Hmm.
Rather
I
hilarious.
Yeah, I've encountered not really like iconoclasts before, but in real life, but some churches I know of, they might use pictures of Jesus, but they won't ever depict the Father,
Yeah.
which I think is interesting. I never really thought about it before, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I it's a matter of conscience for them at the end of the day. Nothing says that they have to have icons. And certainly like, it'd be kind of hard in my mind to depict God the Father because it's there's not really a description of them. So if they feel like they shouldn't do that, I'm not going to fault them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I said, it's a matter of conscience. I just hate the fact that they try to bind others to their iconoclasm. So that's why I picked up the memes and fought.
Yes. Fight the good fight. You have any like actual current goals for the page or?
Currently not. I didn't think I'd get as far as I did. I I was the dog that caught the car. So I shared. I remember the meme that made me famous was that one meme where like we have Peter Parker in the middle and all those other people are laughing at him, and it was regarding alcohol, like Jesus made new wine and all these other
Mm,
traditions are laughing. I shared that, and I'm like, oh, that'll get me at least 10-15 reacts. No, that one got shared on all the big pages, and that one like shot me up from maybe 50 followers to 700 almost. And I'm like, holy crap.
yeah.
So now that I've got almost 2,000 followers, I don't know where I go from here. I guess
Yeah,
just memes.
I was gonna say, I think we're at what, like 500-ish likes, and then over 1,500 follows.
Yeah, 1800. I think.
1,800. I haven't checked in in a little while.
Yeah, I could be
So
wrong. Or I could probably check it right now.
it's like people who follow, they don't want to actually say that they like it, but they want to see what happens.
What's this? No, so I've gotten messages that a lot of people couldn't find how to like it, and I don't know. I'm a boomer when it comes to technology, so
Mhm.
I never try to fix it. I guess our followers are just more devoted because they actually follow us.
Yeah. Well, I think it had something to do with like some
One
sort of
thousand nine
filters.
hundred and forty-five.
Oh wow, dude,
From
that's awesome.
yeah,
Almost at the 2,000 mark. That's great. And then of course, this has actually opened up a lot of interesting. I'd say friendships. They're online friendships, but we have an additional mod or additional admin on there. And then of course we have a couple group chats with a bunch of other admins of Lutheran, mainly Lutheran pages. I don't think we have any non-Lutherans in there. And a couple groups have spawned off that too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
I've actually met some of those guys in real life. Duncan met while he was here in the States.
Yeah, that's right. And you've hung out with Jack, right?
Yeah, I've met him twice now. I'm planning on seeing him again this next year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I enjoy that, and what is it? The granddaddy of all the Lutheran pages, Lutheran memes. We even know the celebrity, not really, admin behind that.
Is that the guy that keeps posting the boomer memes from Texas?
Probably, yeah. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We'll protect the anonymity of fellow Lutherans in crime, I guess.
But we know who they are, so.
Yes, we do. We know your name and where you live. Well, actually, some of them maybe. Generalities.
We know his pastor, or we could probably get in touch with his pastor, so behave yourself.
Well, I'm pretty sure he tags his pastor. Some of them tag their pastors enough. And some of them actually are pastors, which is pretty cool, I think. So I will, if I remember, I'm going to add a list of a lot of these pages in the description of the video once this publishes. So that way we can promote our page and then give some love to other ones too. Yeah. Okay. So you're Lutheran, you're a meme page admin. I'm sure that's going to go on your resume when you become a pastor.
Of course.
Right? Teaching the faith through memes, spreading Lutheranism through funny haha pictures. What are you studying right now in school?
I am studying Spanish for literature and secondary education. So I was geared to be a Spanish teacher until seminary became an option, but I'm still getting the bachelor's because I need it anyway. In case I don't become a pastor or a seminarian, I could always fall back and get my teaching license.
Gotcha. Spanish. So how long have you been taking Spanish?
I did it for 3 years in high school and then about 2 years at the college. I mean, college has been a little slower than I like because of surgeries and family matters and everything, but I want to say maybe 5 years in total.
Did any of that high school Spanish actually stick?
Yeah. Oh yeah, quite a bit. So, and my Spanish is weird because COVID was a thing. I wasn't able to practice spoken Spanish or go international like I was supposed to for exchange student stuff, but I can watch quite a bit of Spanish TV and understand it, and I can read full on Spanish newspapers and like understand what's going on. It's just speaking and writing are a bit harder.
Gotcha. Okay. So like that makes sense, I think. Easier kind of intake than it is to output.
I think it's called passive bilingualism, which that mostly happens with immigrant families where like the kids will move over and they'll understand their parents, but they lose the ability to speak because they get bullied into speaking English or whatever. But yeah, I've become a little more passively bilingual than I would like to be. So
you're like, I need to be actively bilingual. So I know one of the things I learned coming into the LCMS was that the requirements for ordination, basically was it the MDiv? Is it the MDiv that's you have to get, or are there other master's options?
I believe it's the MDiv.
Okay. And how long of a program is that? At
It
least at the
depends,
Concordias.
because it's after you get your bachelor's and it rolls into a master's. So at least 2 to 3 years if you go in person, but they have online options too, which would take even longer.
Yeah.
I'm not
A lot of
exactly.
people do that. I think more like second career. One of my pastors currently did his online because he was, he already was married and had a family and moved from a, secular quote unquote career to the ministry. So, but you think you'll go in person?
I'm going to try, as long as I don't get married and have kids and stuff. But I don't foresee that anytime soon. So I will try my hardest to go in person.
Which one are you thinking?
I'm thinking St. Louis, because that's where my pastor went.
Same.
As much as some people might hate to hear that, because I do have quite a few Fort Wayne fans on my friends list.
Well, Fort Wayne, I mean, they would say St. Louis is liberal, right? Or not as traditional, not as trad.
Right.
I don't know if that's actually true though.
I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a stickler about being an Uber trad, so I mean, either one would work fine for me. My pastor's got more connections in St. Louis, so
yeah. My I think one of my pastors went to St. Louis alongside Will Wheaton.
Oh, wow.
If I remember correctly, or that might have been a doctorate program. I'm not sure.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, and we actually just had Chad Bird at our church this past Sunday. Yeah. Which is another person some of the Uber trads don't like.
yeah. I've heard quite a bit about him from them, but what can you do? It's the internet.
Well, we're not for being converts. I think we're not probably trad enough, so we're gonna have to up our game.
No, we're ruining Lutheranism is what we're doing.
Yes, which is funny because I don't have any desire to like go backwards in my liturgical practice when it comes to contemporary music or shallow theology or whatever, but I don't have the same sort of distaste for some of it.
Right.
Some of it's straight up trash, let's be real. But I'm not as concerned with some of that, maybe that's because I am cursed to be a what are they, a squishy moderate? I don't know.
A lib.
Yeah, it's like you're either a lib or a trad. Get with the program.
For real. But no, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, maybe that's because I grew up in a lot of it. Because a lot of those older, like 2007 to 2015 era evangelical songs kind of still hold a special place in my heart. But it's not so much of the style as much as it is for the substance for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, like the repeat the same line 10,000 times kind of garbage is, needs to firmly be outside the door of our tradition. But like, like stuff like In Christ Alone, I see absolutely no problem with.
Believe it or not, I actually don't have a problem with Amazing Grace either.
Oh my gosh, you fiend.
I think that's one of the favorites that I see people crapping on, which is, and I'm not trying to crap on them either, for their preference, but I do think it's funny, just the spectrum that people can be on, the fun spectrum, not the bad spectrum.
Why not both?
Well, maybe that might be true, but I can't speak to that. Oh Lordy. Oh. So let's say that you finish your bachelor's, go to seminary, graduate, get a waifu and little kiddos. Where do you want to end up? Where do you think you'd want to call to? Like, have you thought about that before?
Oh, I mean, part of me, Michigan's got a funny way of bringing everyone who's from here back. It's the weirdest thing. So I don't know if I'm going to die in this state or not. I wouldn't particularly mind it. But Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Not deep south again. I could maybe do out west, but it's ultimately wherever I feel like I need to be, because I mean, I could. They're so strapped on pastors. I'd probably have more choice than other traditions. But yeah, it's not about what I want at the end of the day. It's about more about where I'm needed.
Sure. Um, hmm. I don't. I don't know if I would leave Texas given the choice. Um, but yeah, I'm not really sure. My family's from the Pacific Northwest. I grew up. Most of my childhood was in Vancouver area, Canada. Um, and then I got a good chunk of family that's still there, and then in Seattle area or in Washington State. So they're all kind of generally there, and they love the weather. That's the one reason they're there. And I'm like, I can't stand it. There's too much rain. Like it's nice during the summer, but no one has central air. So on the 3 or 4 weeks it gets super hot, because global warming's a thing, right?
Yeah, man. You
In the summer, climate change will be back next summer. Don't you forget it. Which I think that was a legit headline as well. It's one of our
back next
lovely.
summer. Yeah. Brit bongs can't cope.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. But yeah, I don't know. Colorado here is nice, but
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
California
we're
is surprisingly nice too. I mean, always warm. That's probably not something you get too much of in Seattle.
no, not really. I went to college in California in like the high desert, which is really just an armpit of California. Um, so it's literally high desert, like it's in the mountains and it's flat, and so you get a 40-degree temperature swing every day.
Oh wow.
Um, so it was sort of near LA, like an hour or two outside of LA, and then I went to San Diego a bunch because I had a friend who lived there, and San Diego is very nice. They have some of the nicest beaches that I've been to.
Yeah, I remember
So
me and Jack went bar hopping in Oceanside, which is right outside San Diego, one day. Beautiful town, wonderful weather, uh,
mhm.
absolutely gorgeous ocean view from the piers.
Yeah, bar hopping. That's not something a Baptist would do.
No, and I'm completely okay with that.
um. So what would you say is, I don't know, lightning round questions.
Okay,
What is your preferred Bible version?
ESV.
Okay. You've just lost some more trad points. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
Um,
and I
I
knew
need
a lot of people hate on the ESV, but I rather like it.
I need to make this is giving me some great ideas. I need to make a trad versus lib checklist for
Oh,
each
wow.
guest. Um, second, do you use any other ones, or is that it mainly?
I'll use the NRSV. Right
Okay.
now I'm talking to some Mormons, so I don't know where I. Oh yeah, here it is. I'll use the good old King James to try to talk to them because that's what they use.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mainly stick around with the ESV.
Gotcha. Did you grow up in the King James, or was there another version that was primary?
I grew up in the New King James.
Okay.
Or the church I spent most time in did the New King James.
Gotcha. I That's like the first I've ever heard of a church actually officially using one, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in like a KJV only movement.
Oh no.
Um, and then yeah, and then I moved to, like Reformed Baptist, which used ESV primarily. So I mean, I'd started to kind of dabble in other rebellious versions, before then, but that was part of my rebellion. Yeah, as a pastor's kid, that was part of my rebellion, was reading a different Bible version.
Oh
So
no, forget doing drugs and sleeping around. You
no, no,
committed.
no, dude, it was ESV and Michael W. Smith, man. That was my
Oh man, that guy slaps.
dude. They're like, you were talking about how some of the songs still hold a special place in your heart or whatever. There's a couple of his CDs that you can turn them on, and I'm like, it's like a wave of nostalgia takes me back.
Oh man, yeah, I'm back in 2007. It's
Yeah, I remember popping like the cassette into the car, and some of those. And then other ones was like the CD. You had to put the CD in, you had to make sure you take it out so the parents didn't find it once you were done in the car.
wait, they wouldn't let you listen to Michael W. Smith?
Oh, no. He was a compromiser. That was rock music. Rock music is bad. Okay.
I remember growing up
Um,
with that, but at least they let me listen to Michael W. Smith.
no, because see, rock music is a big umbrella that is bad. And everything from jazz to rap to country to the Gaithers is basically under that type of rock music umbrella. So
Did your parents ever cite backmasking as a reason as to why you couldn't listen to certain bands?
no, that wasn't something they used. I did encounter that argument because in order to strengthen that particular position, I think any type of like fringe belief, when they want to justify it, there's going to be books written on it and seminars and stuff. So I've read those books. I've read some of the books on like the worship wars, and they mention like backmasking. They mention what's the other one? The beat being on the like the 2 and the 4 and not the 1 and the 3, and that's bad for your heart, just stuff like that. It can't be like we don't like this music, we think it's bad. It's like, no, it's actually there's a good reason, and it's because God created Adam and Eve playing drums on the 1 and the 3, and only a certain kind of drum. It's a drum made of fig leaves. um
Oh gosh. See, I grew up in a very interesting setup. My parents grew up during the satanic panic of the 80s, and I kind of got the back end of that because, that ended probably, I want to say, around the later 90s or at latest early 2000s. But no, I couldn't play D&D, I couldn't listen to rock music, couldn't do all this fun stuff I do now because Satan's taken over everything and it's all Satan's stuff. So
Naturally, I mean, he's the god of the air, and we breathe the air.
yeah.
So do you play D&D right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, on and off. It just depends if I can find a group or not. We did have a group rolling at church, but that's kind of died out.
Bummer.
Yeah.
All right, favorite class
Favorite class in school?
in D&D?
Oh, in D&D, my bad. I'm so tired.
I'm not shifting gears yet. This is interesting.
Okay. Favorite class. Last time I played as a barbarian, I was a really stupid giant or a Goliath named Squog. So I basically maxed out my strength and make my intelligence as low as possible.
I love it. My last character that I took from level 1 to like level 17 was a Goliath barbarian called Tool. And he was inspired off of kind of like a little bit of Drax the Destroyer, a little bit of Incredible Hulk, Tool
Nice.
smash. And so he had a great axe, and he just liked to smash things. He eventually became a Lord of Waterdeep, which is like a really prestigious position in that particular setting. And
Nice.
he's got like 8 in every mental stat, so absolutely terrible.
Sounds like Tool and Squog will get along quite
Tool
well.
and Squog. No, I like Squog's name. Tool is actually like a short form of a longer name that I had, but it just stuck as Tool. So
Oh yeah, I made
that's
it.
awesome.
I made it quite a sticking point that Squog did not like dwarves. So
He didn't like it. So so he just destroyed every door he came across.
no, dwarves.
Oh, dwarves, my bad.
He has
That's
extreme
awesome.
prejudice against dwarves.
Gotcha. What did they ever do to Squog?
The backstory was Squog went to war. When he came back, he caught his wife cheating on him with a dwarf. So ever since then, he's hated dwarves.
I mean, I don't blame Squog. I'd probably hate dwarves too. So any dwarves in your party that you had to like get
Yeah,
along
there
with?
was a dwarven cleric played by my friend Vince, and that was contentious for a minute.
That's awesome. That can be some of the most fun role playing though too, when you're like just goofing off with your buddies
Oh yeah.
and get an excuse to like hate on each other's characters. I before then I always played like kind of almost goody goody two shoes characters like paladins or clerics. right now my group is playing Star Wars. It's a Star Wars RPG. So it's similar in some ways. The dice is different. Like it's not a D20 system, but I'm playing like a couple different characters right now because we have 2 different games going on. But we used to play D&D. We used to play Pathfinder, which is D&D 3.5 essentially.
Yeah.
And then we played 5th edition for several years actually. And now we're branching out into the Star Wars universe. So
that's awesome.
We're making up our own canon now because the sequels and the shows are so bad. So we just ignore them and
like whatever credibility Disney had, they just blew it.
Yeah. It's like I used to. Did you enjoy Marvel as well?
I enjoy the Infinity Saga. Now I can't follow along with what's going on.
Wouldn't even bother.
Yeah, it's like I grew up during the beginning of the Infinity Saga. So like when Iron Man was coming out, I was like 7 or 8. So it was I got to see my whole childhood come to fruition. And then they just take it and screw it up with a twerking fat green girl. And I don't know what to do anymore.
Oh yeah, I don't even bother. My wife and I have watched like 1 or 2 of the new shows. I think we watched Loki and WandaVision, and we tried a few others, and we were like, nah. And that's just the same. That's the same bad taste I get in my mouth with the new Star Wars shows too. Like Mandalorian was kind of passable, and I don't know. It's just it annoys me.
Yeah, that's what happens when something becomes a cow, man. They just keep milking it till dust shoots out.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, okay. So I got off on a tangent there, but it was a fun tangent. Yeah. So have you played any other characters or?
I used to play Fallout pen and paper with some friends.
Oh, okay.
And I think I was just a normal human. Someone else played as a ghoul, but I burned down the whole casino in the game, which was kind of sucky because I was like the hangout hub where we could sell and trade and everything like that. So ever since then, I think I just killed the DM's like will to continue because that was a really stupid thing.
Have you ever DM'd a game yourself?
No. I mean, maybe one day, but I don't got the attention span to come up with a whole universe or even try to run things and keep order.
I would say like if you're interested in that, because if you like telling stories and kind of being creative or if you have an idea, you can find a lot of those like pre-written modules and just modify them if you want. Because that's what I've done. I've played and I've DM'd as well. So I enjoy both. It's really fun to kind of tell the story on the DM side, but I'm not like, I've got some friends who are like super creative players. Like the DM will say, what do you want to do? And it's like, they have this giant list of things that they want to do. And I'll be like, the DM will say, oh, what do you want to do? And I'm like, do you have a plot hook for me, sir? Can I have a crumb of plot hook? Because I'm not creative.
Yeah, you can never account for like what people are going to do, man. People are unpredictable. So like you're in the bar or you're the settings in the tavern. It's like, okay, this is where the adventure's supposed to begin, but no, I just assaulted the barmaid. And now the DM's got to get the guards in there because he couldn't see that coming. And
was she a dwarf?
Yes.
Well, naturally then. Completely understandable. Oh, that's great. That's great. So on the subject of like D&D, Harry Potter, you said your parents wouldn't let you read Harry Potter. Did they feel the same way about like Lord of the Rings and stuff too, or?
No, Lord of the Rings is completely fine.
Oh, naturally.
But like Harry Potter is not, but they both have wizards. So I'm like, and there's even like a giant demon thing that crawls out of this ravine called the Balrog in Lord of the Rings. I'm like, it's like a literal giant demon, but you let me watch this?
It's fine. He was a Christian, right? Just don't mention that he was actually a Catholic, Roman Catholic.
Roman Catholic.
Not a qualifier. So have you read the Harry Potter books now?
No, I was really thinking about doing it because I just got off of midnights at my work, but I need to cover 2 midnights because my coworker's going on vacation. And I thought, well, they sell Harry Potter in all the bookstores around here. I might just pick up a copy and see what this is all about. Because I mean, I'm a fast reader, and 2 nights is enough for me to finish a book like that.
It's like, yeah, it's a good series. I enjoyed it, but I didn't get to read them until I was an adult. So no, I've got I don't really have a bookshelf full because my bookshelf was not yet unpacked, but we've got a lot of books that, like I was allowed to read Lord of the Rings growing up, but Harry Potter was, not the desired activity that my parents wanted me to participate in.
Yeah, finally someone who can relate to me. But I find that so funny because now hyper conservatives and hyper liberals can both agree that Harry Potter sucks because hyper conservatives are like, ooh, magic, and hyper liberals are like, ew, turf, and which is all the more reason for me to read it now because
I know, right? Yeah. Even though there is a great skit, I forget the guy's name. There's a comedian on YouTube who has made, shoot, I'll have to look it up and I'll send it to you. But he has made these skits about J.K. Rowling like popping up from behind a door and saying, "Oh, guess what? Guess what? Dumbledore's gay now," and then like disappearing.
Dude, that is so. So I went to go see Fantastic Beasts, and I my grandfather and I will always like pick a movie, watch it, and then crap on it together. But he thought that Fantastic Beasts wasn't anything to do with Harry Potter. He thought it was something else completely. And of course, I wasn't allowed to read or watch Harry Potter, so I had no way of knowing that this was a Harry Potter thing. But we go see the movie, and we walk out like a quarter of the way in because like Dumbledore's gay, and that like they make that like a really poignant thing. Some dude slits it in his throat, and it's like, but no, that's how I.
So was that
not
recent? Was that like this year?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. This year.
So had you seen any of the other ones before? Okay, so you're going in on the third movie of a trilogy that's like trying to be related to Harry Potter.
Right. And I didn't, yeah, I was completely blindsided.
Yeah. It's all, to me, it's always, well, and she's woke in her own way, right? She's liberal in her own way. She's a more like normal liberal, I'd say.
If you can say that.
Yeah. She's a TERF, right? Which, what's that?
Which is based.
Which, yeah. based and red pilled. So I forget what that even stands for, like trans
exclusionary radical feminist.
Yeah. So the radical feminist part, obviously there's not a lot of Christian virtue there, but she's just a mean person who doesn't like trans people, apparently. So
always
clearly, yeah. So it's like you're never going to be woken up for the woke mob, right? Like, and even
proof of that, because there's always a liberal screaming at another liberal on Twitter because they weren't woke enough.
Yeah. You haven't read those yet? Have you seen the movies, or are you waiting to?
I'm waiting because I always like to read the books before I see the movies, which with Aragon was a huge freaking mistake. Because the movie absolutely sucked compared to the book.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's pretty bad. I love those books, even though I think they're a little derivative. I think in some ways, like he's not as original as he wants to be.
No, and he wrote the first book when he was 15.
Yeah, he's a homeschooler, I think, like super young.
But I did read his newest book, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, recently.
Okay,
I liked it quite a bit.
Without spoiling it, what's the premise of it? Is it sci-fi?
Yeah, it's sci-fi. It's basically, I want to say, I mean, because I don't want to spoil too much, but I really don't know how to spoil much of it. I mean, alien discovery, and then an adventure that takes off from there. I mean, really good in my mind.
Is it set on Earth then, or?
It's set on, well, the whole thing starts on another planet. They're
okay,
trying to map out for resources and everything, and then the whole thing just goes to crap from there.
Gotcha. All right, I might check that out. I haven't read a good fiction book in a while.
I mean, I think Pauline really grew into his role as an author with that one.
That's
Like
good.
you go from the inheritance cycle, which was like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars mixed, kind of fun, but then you go into that and it's like, wow, I can see him taking this one somewhere. So
Is there plans to do more in that series for him, do you think?
he alluded to it. I mean, the way the book kind of ended was very reminiscent of inheritance cycle. So I'm like, I don't know how you can continue this, but it's he definitely said that, or he alluded to the fact that he wants to work more in that universe. So I'm excited for it.
Interesting. Have you read the Red Rising series?
No.
Okay. I don't remember the name of the author off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up here. But if you enjoy like sci-fi, you might like this one. Oh yeah, Pierce Brown. Pierce Brown. So it's like a dystopian science fiction novel set in like future humanity. So we have expanded to the different planets and that sort of thing. So
Nice.
it's pretty cool. People called it like a cross between like, Hunger Games and like not Star Wars, but maybe something along that. Maybe Dune or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Red Rising, right?
Red Rising. Yeah, there's a whole series now. It started off as just a trilogy, or initially I think he planned it as a trilogy, but I'd say it's pretty enjoyable. I definitely enjoyed it. I think that's there's a lot of like ancient Rome, ancient Greece kind of inspiration. So it can be kind of interesting. It's well done. It moves fast. If you're a fast reader, you'll like it because I blew through it in like a night or something like that. So I used to get books we would get one gift to open on Christmas Eve. And a lot of times when we were older, like in later high school, that would be books. And I would stay up basically all night reading because we didn't have a ton of TV or anything like that. We mainly watched or mainly read books and stuff for fun. So
yeah, blowing through whole books in a night, man. I've done plenty of that before.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you'll look up from the book, it's like done, and it's like 5 a.m. Like shoot, I got to be at work in like 7 hours.
Oh yeah, I've done that where it's like the next morning I think I stayed up till 2 or 4 or something like that. 4 was kind of the latest I would push it. Yeah. And then I'd be like, I gotta go to bed. Okay, let's put this one down. Because I'd be done in, a matter of hours.
That always gets so annoying because I'd be like, I would work the midnights where I'm at right now, and I would just read and read and read. And it's like, I should probably mop the floors or something. But then it catches me on a hook, and it's like, oh, I got to read the next chapter now.
Do you prefer paper books or do you use a Kindle or something like that?
Paper. Definitely paper.
Virtual fist bump. Yeah, I appreciate paper over that as well. I ended up I'm kind of addicted to my phone, as I'd say most of America is, and my attention span is not what it used to be. But yeah, I do read some on my phone, but I prefer paper.
Oh yeah,
when I can get it anyway. There's so much that's available like for free. Even when it comes to like study resources, like Bible study resources and stuff.
You can definitely get everything you really want on PDF these days. So
yep. Yeah, but I just don't like reading on a screen the same way I like reading on paper.
Yeah, the screens will definitely damage your eyes over time much more quickly than a paper book will. So I always go with the paper book.
Just call myself a boomer when it comes to that. But my parents are actual boomers, so
yeah, hey, a little bit rubbed off on you. That's a-okay.
Yeah.
I hate being a zoomer.
You hate what?
I hate being a zoomer. All my generation knows is how to like sleep around and smoke weed, and I can't really identify with any of that.
Yeah, like my wife and I are millennials, so but we never were really part of the kind of late bloomer millennial generation. Like we were married. I was 21, she was 22 when we got married, and we're like living on our own. And we moved to a completely new place with no like parents around because we had friends of ours who would live with their parents for a little while, save on rent and stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, we never really did that. Like, so whenever the news says, oh yeah, millennials are doing XYZ, I'm like, No, I'm not.
Oh
How
yeah.
dare you? How dare you generalize me?
Lump me in with those lazy people.
Yeah, it's lazy, good for nothing. And I grew up pretty conservative, and I've maintained, for the most part, maintained being pretty conservative. So I was never like the full blown lib, like some millennials kind of ping pong back and forth.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I'm never really identified with my generation when it comes to the, I guess, generational norms that are supposedly universal.
Oh
But
gosh. Yeah, no, because my generation is literally nothing but like sex and drugs. And it's rather ridiculous. I because I mean like everyone smoked weed, but I don't do that anymore. And it's that's all people these days really do. And I don't know how you identify with that.
I don't know. It's like a lot of our culture, I think, makes up problems because they're bored.
Yeah.
We have so much like plenty, and um, we don't really have any serious poverty or any serious hardship other than, scattered stuff or individual situations. It's not
Yeah.
like there's systemic, famine
Yeah.
or something like that to like
That's the
bother us
problem.
about.
Everything's got to be systemic, and I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong. There's some issues that definitely need fixing, but just because there's a blatant issue doesn't mean that it's part of a greater system. I guess
Yeah.
we can focus on tackling the specific issue and not try to like reshape society because
It's
it just
got to function like I think it should.
yeah, the beans must be made, and we can't all do that when you're sitting home all day collecting a check. That's where I kind of
Yeah.
cut the line with my uh
Yeah.
with my political and economic shtick. Like, hey, get off the couch. You got to contribute.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I actually work full time from home now, so this is my wonderful office. But
Nice.
for I don't know, like 8 years, I commuted to work, and people now say, oh, I just can't go. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I went in at 6 a.m. for like 7 of those years. Like
Dang.
the other one was like 10 to 6. It was great. When I first got married, shift started at 10, off at 6. It was perfect. I could sleep in.
Yeah, I get up every day at 5 to go to work or 5 in the morning. So if I can do it, so can you, you lazy zoomer.
That's true. Tagline for the episode: if I can do it, you can do it, you lazy zoomer. So Harry Potter's not on your immediate list. What's on your reading list right now?
Right now it's on my desk actually. I'm picking through this one, Early Christian Doctrines by J. and D. Kelly, but that's nonfiction. As far as fiction goes, I don't exactly know. Ever since I stopped, or ever since I finished that other one by Paulini, it's like I've just been a breeze in the wind, kind of directionless. I don't know where to go from here.
Mm. Yeah, I mainly have like nonfiction on my list, but I usually just feel bad about not reading it. So
Yeah.
I got like 4 on the go right now. But
Oh yeah. I mean, I read a lot of ecumenical dialogues between different church bodies because that stuff interests me. So I've been reading a lot of those on PDF. But other than that, that's all done on my phone.
mhm. So you like to read. You sounds like you like to watch some non-crappy entertainment. What do you, other than those two? What do you do for fun outside of work and trolling for Jesus?
Hang out with friends. You know, maybe I'll go out to the bar with friends. Maybe we'll stay in and play video games and reminisce about how good times used to be. When I'm on like vacation time though, I'll go fly out and meet people, or I'll drive to Mississippi and see some people, or maybe I'll just hang out with family. Just kind of be a friendly body, sort of.
Yeah, gotcha. So maybe backtracking a bit, how it's a couple years, or you said 2019, 2020 is when you started the switch from Baptist to Lutheran.
20 spring and summer of 2019.
So that's 3 years, 3.5 years ish. how's your relationship with your family? Has it improved or?
It has improved greatly. It's still not perfect. I mean, but it's definitely a far cry from where it used to be. Because I remember days where they would come in and be like, you're messing with the gospel with my beliefs regarding baptism. I remember I was at dinner or at lunch one day with my sister and mother, and my sister just outright attacks me. And I'm like, okay, first of all, because at the time she was 17, you're 17, so you don't know what you're talking about. Second of all, you can't even quote what verse I'm citing, so you don't know what you're talking about. But no, I think she kind of picked that up from my parents, and then my parents and I had a lot of unfriendly powwows. But I think it's gotten
Mm.
better over time. It's we bother each other less on that, and yeah.
What do you think? What do you think's the difference there? Is it just time, or is it, you know?
Probably just time, and then the fact that we've been going through a bunch of different family issues regarding certain members of the family, and some of it medical, some of it religious, and it's like the more time we spend at each other's throats, the less time we really have to be empathetic and pray about what we need to be praying about. So they eventually it came to the point where it's like, hey, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, maybe we shouldn't be fighting over all this stuff. And yeah, we have our disagreements, and we have to recognize that there are real disagreements here, but at the same time we can recognize and kind of stay out of each other's hair in that regard. And that's I think as adults, that's just what anyone should do. Because at some point you're just not going to get anywhere by fighting all the time.
Yeah. So I know there's like, I'm a Lutheran convert, so to speak. I don't consider myself to be a non-Christian before then. I don't know if anyone really does, if any Lutherans that I've encountered who come from a different tradition, Christian tradition, let's say. So, what if you had to give like those converts one piece of advice? Maybe they're moving from another Christian tradition and they're having like family discord because of that. Is there one thing you would say to them to encourage them or to point them in the right direction?
Yeah, Jesus said this would happen. Is eventually,
Mm.
because two scriptures come to mind. One is that the world's going to hate you because they hated me first, and the other one is that I didn't come to bring peace but a sword. And then Jesus goes on to clarify that, and it's like, I'm going to divide father against son, mother against daughter, and all the other stuff I can't exactly remember verbatim right now. But when it comes to matters of truth, you have to stick by what the truth is, and you have to understand that people are going to not like you for it, and that's okay. And that at the end of the day, when it comes to family, Jesus said that family would be divided over his name. It doesn't mean you can't love them. It doesn't mean that you can't have productive relationships with them. But Jesus said this would happen, and you have a savior who took on flesh and who empathizes with us and understands our struggles. And so, yeah, you can, remain in prayer about it. Try to work and be constructive with your family, and understand that, God said this would happen. I
Hmm.
guess.
I think that's good advice. It's the first time I've had someone go there right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's good. That's good. So, what would you give us your plug then for your meme page, for your interests? What's next for Chuck?
Chuck's just going to continue on going to school and being Chuck for now. I've got more medical stuff I've got to figure out, so I don't have any big plans for life until that's all settled away. But yeah, I guess just keep doing what I'm doing, keep going to school, keep being an online nuisance, eventually go to go to seminary.
And then you can become a more mature online nuisance at some point.
Oh yeah. And then I can be like, hey, I'm wearing the collar. I know what I'm talking
Do
about.
you see this? You see this?
I worked for
This is like 5 years schooling.
it.
Shut up. I will say that is one thing that did like impress me with the LCMS was the amount of like biblical language study that they go through. When I found out they had to know, like, because I went to Bible college and I took some Greek, But when I found out it was like, oh, you got to know Greek and Hebrew and Latin and German, I was like, okay, these guys are not messing around.
It's strict, man. And that's a good thing, because you don't just want anyone just coming up into the pulpit and saying God inspired me to be a pastor, and then just start start preaching without any kind of experience or back knowledge or anything like that. It's just a recipe for all kinds of disaster.
Yeah.
It's something I've always appreciated about the synod.
As we can see, it's like they're like, prove it. Well, I'm like, let's go down the list, shall we, of just people that are celebrities that have fallen or said something untoward, or yeah. Fun times, man. Well, hey, I really appreciated this conversation. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I appreciated it too, man. Thanks for having me on.
I will, and we'll if your episode does well, we'll bring you on as a recurring guest.
Oh man, well, here's the hoping.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that little bell, the ding-a-ling-a-ling, and leave a comment below, maybe about how Chuck should watch Harry Potter movies before reading the books. I don't know. Enjoy being wrong with that. Until the next time, then, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace.